The princess in the movie crossed the screen to the real world of human beings. She is covered in black and white without color. This makes Kenji both scared and curious. He was just about to approach when the princess hit his head with a bottle of wine. Before he could react, the princess ran to the door. The colorful world made her extremely excited. Yuki kept asking Kenji the names of the colors. Kenji followed her carefully as he explained. He had liked the heroine of this old movie for a long time. He thought the princess was the spirit of the deceased actress. Kenji was just about to express his affection when he was hit again. Kenji was worried that she would be discovered, so he put his clothes over Princess Yuki's head. But this sneaky behavior attracted the attention of the police. He was just about to lift the dress. The princess knocked the patrolman to the ground again. Kenji was terrified and rushed back to his house with the princess. After questioning her, he learned that she was not the spirit of an actress, but the Princess Yuki from the movie world. Because the world there is all black and white and monotonous, so Yuki wanted to come to the human world to see. Yuki asked the reluctant Kenji to be her servant from now on. Kenji had to take Yuki to the place where the movie was shot the next day. As Yuki had requested, Yuki was always curious about how the characters in the movie were created. Kenji was an assistant director, so there was no one to stop him from mentoring or leaving the set. He was worried that Yuki's identity would be discovered, so Kenji took her to the dressing room and asked her to cover up her black and white skin with makeup. It didn't take long for Yuki to put on her makeup. Kenji was amazed at how glamorous the princess looked with her makeup on. Kenji introduced Yuki to the set and told her not to touch anything here, but when he wasn't paying attention, Yuki had her eye on a huge poster. She was obsessed with the colors of the human world, so she took out the paint next to her and splashed it on the poster. When Kenji returned, the poster was already colorfully painted by Yuki. He was so scared that he kept apologizing to the director. Luckily, a famous star was passing by. He liked the poster Yuki had created and praised Yuki's cinematic looks, but the next moment, Yuki slapped him. This star is a very important member of the crew. Kenji might not be able to keep his job. However, Yuki didn't realize the seriousness of the problem. She continued to tour the set freely. She wandered onto another set by mistake. The director tried to pull her away, but he was beaten up by Yuki again. They didn't want to do anything to the woman, so they pointed the finger at Kenji. Without saying a word, they pinned Kenji down and beat him up. Ever since Yuki entered the set, she started getting into trouble, and Kenji was the one who ended up taking the blame. He was fed up with Yuki's arrogance, and he doesn't want to be her servant anymore. Now he just wants to make a clean break with Yuki. But Yuki's amulet is gone. She's still asking Kenji to find it for her in a commending tone. After a big fight between them, Yuki went to look for the amulet by herself, but then it started to rain heavily. Kenji looked at the dark clouds and got worried. He said he didn't want to care about Yuki, but in the end, he couldn't ignore her. Kenji returned to Yuki's side with his umbrella and helped her to find the amulet. Kenji was poking around in the grass in the rain. Yuki's eyes gradually became gentler. She wasn't really arrogant. It's just that in the world of movies, Yuki is a princess. She had all the habits of a princess. Kenji thought she was like a child and laughed out loud. So he stopped being angry with Yuki. Yuki realized her mistake and apologized to Kenji. She took the amulet carefully, and a smile appeared on her face. The previous quarrel disappeared. The rain stopped at that moment. A rainbow suddenly appeared in the sky. Yuki was mesmerized. It was a splendor she had never seen in the black and white world. Kenji said, "Legend has it that if the rainbows appear at the same time, then the wish that was made would definitely come true." He wanted to see it with Yuki when it happened. Yuki just smiled as their relationship became better. Good things came along with it. Kenji had always wanted to be a director. He often watches movies alone to improve his skills. Today the company asked Kenji to write a script. If it's approved, he will be the director of the film. Kenji was very happy, but he didn't know that it was actually arranged by the studio owner's daughter, Takao. Takao had noticed the hardworking Kenji a long time ago and fell in love with him. So she asked her father to give Kenji a chance. Kenji didn't know anything about it. He thought it was a reward for his hard work. Now he just wants to write a good script, but he didn't have any inspiration right now. So Kenji went to the old curator of the cinema for advice. The old curator said life is the best teacher. Only true feelings can move the audience the most. Kenji then wanted to write a romantic movie about his meeting with Yuki. This will not only save a lot of time, it was also very easy to get the material. Yuki heard that Kenji wanted to make a movie and was very cooperative. The two of them played the role of the hero and heroine. From meeting to dating, from confidants to lovers, they went around to find inspiration. Kenji came home and put these feelings into the script. Kenji found out that Iyuki seemed to like red very much. Every time she sees a rose, she stays for a long time. He took a camera with him to capture Iyuki's most beautiful moments. Their relationship gradually becomes very close, but Iyuki always kept a distance from him. This night, Kenji was dressed in a cloak as the prince in the play. He got down on one knee with a rose and asked Iyuki to marry him. Iyuki was a bit moved, but she smiled and said she wouldn't fall in love with a servant. Kenji is a little lost. He can't tell if this is drama or reality. Iyuki then proceeds to play along with Kenji to the fullest extent. There is a scene in the play where the hero and heroine kiss on the bridge. Kenji is careful to make this request, but then he hurriedly apologized. After all, he hadn't even held Iyuki's hand, but this time Iyuki wasn't angry. She turned around and went to the phone booth. She closed her eyes through the glass with deep emotion. Kenji was both nervous and delighted. He got up the courage to kiss the glass, but Iyuki pulled back at that moment. She laughed at Kenji's silly face. Their relationship went even further. No one could tell if it was an act or real love. Kenji told Iyuki the heroine in this film is brutal and capricious, but her heart is extremely soft. She wants love but is afraid of being hurt. This seems to have struck a chord with Iyuki. It was as if she really had something to hide. After that day, Iyuki became a little sensitive. One day she accidentally knocked over a glass. The splash of water wiped off the makeup on her skin. She looked at her black and white complexion. Suddenly she felt very sad. No amount of beautiful makeup could change the fact that she was a person from another world. That's when Tako suddenly found her. She had seen Iyuki and Kenji dating many times, so she wanted to confirm their relationship. If they were really a couple, she would give up. Looking at Tako's rosy fingers, looking at her own black and white complexion, Iyuki felt inferior for the first time. At that moment, she realized she was still so far away from Kenji. Iyuki decisively denied being in a relationship. She also lied that she was just Kenji's distant cousin. Iyuki suddenly felt her heart ache. She looked at her black and white fingers and seemed to have made some kind of decision. Kenji's script was quickly approved with Tako's help. His boss named him as the director of the film and urged him to write a happy ending. Kenji was very happy. He asked Iyuki out that night and told her the good news, but Iyuki looked a little preoccupied. Kenji said he was about to become a director. He had the ability to give Iyuki happiness in the future. At this moment, Iyuki told the truth without hiding anything. In fact, she wanted to stay by Kenji's side, but it was impossible. It turns out that Iyuki will disappear as soon as she is touched by a warm human body. This is the condition for her to be able to come to the human world. That's why whenever someone comes near her, that's why she reacts so much. It's not rudeness or arrogance. It's just her self-protection. Iyuki didn't really find the black and white world boring. She took the risk to come to the human world just to meet Kenji. It turns out that in the days when black and white movies were popular, the cinemas were full almost every day. Countless audiences came to see Iyuki, but with the development of the times and the popularity of television, fewer and fewer people came to see Iyuki, until finally there was no one left. Iyuki's posters were mercilessly torn down. This is the fate of old movies. Black and white films are forgotten and obsolete by the times. A few years later, the cinema was suddenly full again. Iyuki thought that the audience remembered her. But then she realized that there was a technique of color film. In that world, the characters were full of color. Audiences loved color movies. Iyuki never had any hope again. She knew she would never be seen on screen again, and the tape was sealed away until one day, a young man who loved movies opened the box again. He watched the movie alone with great interest. Enjoying Iyuki, she had hope once again. Iyuki came to the human world, despite the danger, to say thank you to Kenji. Iyuki removes her makeup and reveals her black and white skin. It is impossible for them to be together because they are from two different worlds. Iyuki rejected Kenji before he could formally confess his love. The next day, Tako confessed his love to Kenji, but Kenji rejected her without even thinking about it. Iyuki accidentally found the gift Kenji wanted to give her that night. It was a maroon wedding ring. She then realized that Kenji wanted to propose to her that night, but Iyuki also realized that she couldn't give Kenji a good future. But if Kenji and Tako were to be together, then his career and dreams could be realized. In order to break Kenji's wish once and for all, Iyuki had to pack her bags and leave the place. Iyuki said a lot of cruel words to him and left. Iyuki had nowhere to go. She went to the phone booth to escape the rain. The kind-hearted movie director found her and took her in. Kenji was depressed for a long time. He was afraid to go see Iyuki. but he didn't want to give up so easily. When he hesitated, he met the big star to encourage him, and then two rainbows appeared in the sky. They both remembered the promise they made at the beginning. When the two rainbows appeared, they had to look at each other. Kenji ran to the cinema without a second thought. He didn't just want to look at the present. He wanted to have a future with Yuki that belonged to them. Kenji came to the cinema and finally saw Yuki again. Yuki was in tears. She wanted to give Kenji her only hug, even if she will disappear and die because she touched a human being. Kenji just slowly walked towards Yuki. Their story didn't end there. Decades have passed. Kenji has become an old man in hospital with poor health. The script did not end in the end, and it was not made into a movie. The nurse who took care of Kenji was very interested in the script. After reading it, she thought the princess must have disappeared after being hugged, but she hoped that Kenji would write a happy ending to the script. Just at that moment, a young lady came to visit Kenji, and she was Yuki, the heroine of the story. It turns out that Kenji didn't choose to hug her that day. He decided never to touch his lover in his life. He wanted to spend this beautiful life in their own way. Kenji proposed to Yuki and took a wedding photo. In the photo, although they are far apart, but their hearts are together forever, for the rest of their lives. They held hands with handkerchiefs, kissing through the glass, even though they couldn't touch their loved ones. They spent decades happily together. Over the years, they were very happy running a small movie theater. This theater only showed black and white movies and many old forgotten movies. As Kenji grew old, he knew his days were numbered. He finally put pen to paper and wrote the ending. The day Kenji finished writing it, he became critically ill. Yuki looked at Kenji's name and was heartbroken. Yuki took Kenji's old hands. She touched and felt Kenji's warmth for the first time. The dream she had been waiting for decades had finally come true. And so she faded away into Kenji's arms in the warm winter night. Kenji finally felt Yuki's body heat and closed his eyes forever. The next day, the nurse helped Kenji sort through his belongings and found the ending Kenji had written. Their story is set in a romantic theater. Kenji came to the world of black and white movies. He pulled out a red rose and proposed to her like a prince in the presence of countless friends and family. The moment Yuki accepted the flower, the black and white world was suddenly filled with color. It was no longer monotonous or boring. There was a happy couple here.